Hi everyone, I think we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Suzie Johannes. I'm an instructor here at KUIT, and with me I have Tennille Fincham. So we're both technology instructors here at KUIT. Hopefully you can all hear me talking, and if you can't, go ahead and type something in the chat window. Um, so a few things as we get started, and we'll probably have more people join us as we go. This is one of a series of quick learns that are topic-based sessions, and today we're going to be focusing on email and time management tips and tricks. Usually at the end of each session, we'll poll you to find out what you want to know next, but for the next couple ones, we already have those mapped out, so we'll probably skip the poll for now. If you have questions, we're going to ask that you submit those through the chat window, and I'll show you how to activate that if you can't currently see it here in a few minutes. Also, I am recording the session so that we can share it with those who aren't able to attend. So just so you know, that recording will be posted on our website with all the different quick learns that we've offered so far. All right, so an overview of today's session, we're going to be looking at this big idea of email and time management. And then what we're going to do is we're really going to drill down just on one part of the big idea, which is just tips and tricks on how to process your email using the 4Ds, which is do it, defer it, delegate it, delete it. So those are the actions you'll take on your emails, and we'll go into a lot more detail on that. But that's just one piece of this bigger idea of email and time management. And then hopefully at the end we should have at least 5 or 10 minutes, and I hope that we will be able to do a little bit of sharing. Usually when we do this session, we find out a lot of great ideas from you all on what you're doing in your roles with your email and your group accounts even to find out what works for you. So real quickly, the objective of today's session is just so that you'll learn some practical techniques for how to manage your email and find more time. The objective of today isn't to make your email any more, time consuming or confusing or burdensome than it already is. So if there's anything that we cover today and you think, that sounds like a good idea, but I don't quite understand how it works, or possibly, that would be a good idea, however, that doesn't sound like me. Um, I would suggest that you don't go out and do it today, but instead we have a session that kind of corresponds with this, a workshop called Outlook Getting Organized. And in that, it's an hour and a half long workshop, and it's really set aside to have a lot of work time in the workshop so that you can actually go through your email and start putting some of these things in place with Tennille or I there. Um, so, so that's a good idea. And if you're looking for those sessions, you'll find all of our workshops. Currently, they're all posted on workshops.ku.edu. So we have those getting organized courses for your new employees that are, if you're a supervisor who are getting started. Also know that we have an Outlook Getting Started course to help set up some things when they initially start and kind of understand the calendar and scheduling meetings. So just be aware of that. And then we also have the Quick Learn series that we'll be making another announcement about. We have some more sessions scheduled, so they'll happen every Thursday from 11 to noon. Next week's going to be on OneNote. After that, Tennille's going to do Office 365 and OneDrive for Business. And then we're going to have another My Community topic following that, and we'll announce more as we go. I'm going to follow up with everyone, including the people who couldn't attend, with that recording, also the handout for today's session. And I'll include these links and the topics in case you want to go out and register for more Quick Learn sessions. All right, so now let's get to the big idea. So this session, what we're going to talk about today is really modeled after this book, Getting Things Done by David Allen. I'm not a complete expert on getting things done. I feel like I need to reread it because it's been a couple years. But getting things done really covers a lot of different areas as far as personal productivity and planning. And today we're just going to be covering one piece of it, which is the processing of email, but we need to cover some of it in order to set up today's session. So the big ideas with getting things done, it has a huge cult following. There's people at KU who are, I would consider experts, but here's what I took away from it. Every, every day or possibly, weekly or whatever it works for you, you need to set aside time to actively process the items in your inbox. And so today we're going to be talking about your inbox in terms of um, your email inbox, but we'll talk here in a minute. There could be other inboxes in your life, but basically the goal is your when you're working through the items in your inbox, the goal is that you'll process each item just once, and then once you've processed that email, you will remove the item from your inbox. Another thing here is that you try to minimize the amount of inboxes in your life. So we all have an email inbox, but maybe in your work life, people also leave things on your desk for you. Maybe you have a mailbox. Maybe you have, different places where people are leaving things for you. At home, maybe you have a little cubby where you put all your mail, but maybe there's another stack on your desk of things to do, and maybe there's, various places in the house. So basically, you want to minimize the amount of inboxes or places that you are collecting information. And then part of the whole getting things done plan is that you basically once a week you look at you do a weekly review once a week. And in that weekly review, you you have a list of all the projects or open loops you have open in your life. So those could be planning for a birthday party that's coming up, or a project at work, maybe a college class you're taking on the side. And then you have a separate list with the next actions to carry each of those items forward. Some of the next actions you'll also have will be the things that you come up with as you're processing the items in your inbox. So as you get an email that's to update a report, you make a note of that on your next action list, and then you file that as something you're waiting to do or something you need to take action on. All right, so the idea behind this, though, is that you will end up with a zero email inbox. This might sound a little bit, out there. For me, last year, it sounded out there. This year, I'm actively doing this, and it's working for me so far. I do have to make the caveat here. Whenever we do this session, I feel like I need to expose myself as not being as not, I struggle with things just as much as everyone else, and I have a different job than you all, and I get different email from you all, and I don't get, a lot of emails from students, so I'm getting like very, usually the same kind of emails over and over again. So that said, the zero email inbox has allowed me, and the getting things done process has allowed me at least to feel like I have a plan in place and things aren't slipping by. It's made me feel like, on Monday when I get to work and I turn on my computer and I look at my email, I'm not getting stressed out by all the things that visually look like they're there to do, because my inbox is very, it's down to zero at least by Friday, and then in Monday I have some things there already. So that said, I'm going to go through some more to set this up, and then we're going to spend some time on processing your email. But again, this is what's working for me this year. And if you want to talk more about it after the session, we can definitely do that. So basically, before we go into processing your email, we have to talk about two things, and that's first the project and next action list, and second, the folders you have in Outlook. So the project and next action list, again, they're two separate lists. One has all the projects or open loops you currently have in your life. That can be a really freeing process, just doing a brain dump of everything that you have on your plate. The next action list, that is, the steps that you need to take with the project next. I think ideally, I can't remember, but ideally I think it's supposed to be the things you can do this week. That never happens for me. I'm always carrying over certain items from week to week. So you can track these lists, the DIY way. You can do it on a notepad. That works, and it's definitely gratifying to cross the things off. You can create a Word document each week. I like that one. I did that 2 years ago, and basically at the beginning of each week, I would just make copies of the Word doc. So I would have a Word doc that showed what I got done each week. And the nice thing about this process and about keeping track of these things is when it comes time for your annual review, you have a list of all the things that you've accomplished and the projects that you've been working toward. And then the other thing you can use that I use now currently is OneNote. And again, we're going to talk about OneNote in next week's session, and we'll probably have sessions coming up on the workshop's calendar. But let me just give you a look at what I'm doing currently. Let me fire it up. I should have had this going, but so OneNote is a free note-taking software from Microsoft, and you already have it on your machine, most likely. It comes with Microsoft Office, so this is the 2013 version. So basically what I have a notebook for personal projects and reports, and then in my notebook, I have an area section for next steps, and each week I copy over my to-do list and I take out the things that I've already done. So this was last week's, and then I add some more because I'm doing my weekly review on Monday morning. And then in addition to that, I have my project list with all the different projects I have going and things I'm thinking about, working towards, that type of thing. So OneNote is definitely a great tool, and especially coming down the line when we have Office 365 and OneNote, it becomes even more powerful. But again, if you're interested in using OneNote, we will be focusing on that next week. So that's a little bit about your project and your next action list. Now, folders. Prior to this year, I had 60 plus folders. The view on the left, I had folders within folders within folders. I had things that were to do with people, things that were to do with meetings, things that were to do with projects, things that were to do with training, and I had to think, a lot of times, like, where do I put this? Like, which one do I put it in? This year, I'm trying something different where I really just have 5 main folders, and I'm relying a lot more on search. It's been good for me because the thing with having a lot of folders is that it takes time to file. So what I have this year is I have a personal folder that has, anything that applies to me personally, like from HR. I have also some subfolders there that are for different mailing lists that I subscribe to. And what I've done is I've created rules so that those newsletters I get that I am curious about reading, they just forward straight to a folder without actually landing in my inbox, and then I can read them when I have time. I have an action folder that has all of the things that I need to take action on, and usually those items will also be indicated on my task list, and some of them that require a lot of time I'll have some time blocked out on my calendar, which is a great way to do that. I'll show you later. I have a waiting on folder for anything that I'm waiting on more information or I've delegated to someone and I'm waiting for an update or need to follow up on it eventually. I have a reference folder, and that reference folder is anything I think that I might possibly need to reference in the next 6 months. And then I have an archive folder. Now this archive folder, there's something in Outlook that's called archive. That's not what this is. We actually recommend that you do not use Outlook Archive just because it can cause problems. This is just a folder that I've named Archive, and what I put here is anything that I kind of flinch at deleting. So if I'm not quite sure, I probably won't reference it, but I hesitate to delete it, then I put it in the archive. And the other thing that I do, like in order to transition from 2014 to 2015, is at the end of the year, I create a folder for 2000, last year it was 2014, and I just put everything, all those folders into that folder. and I started fresh again with a new personal, new action, a new waiting on reference, all those things. And the idea there is that in, 2 years maybe I can just delete the 2014 folder. And I'm pretty I also know because I haven't actually gone to look for anything in that 2014 folder. All right, well, we'll move forward. I got a couple things to talk about before we get into the 4Ds. Um, but and that is just how to cut down on email in general. So there's a few things here. We're going to talk about viewing by conversation, conversation cleanup. We'll talk a little bit about email rules, categories and quick steps, search and search folders. Some of these things I won't go into a lot of detail now because they'll be covered later. And also, again, the Outlook Getting Organized class is a really great one if you want to come look at your email and actually put some of these things in place. So I'm going to open up my email here. And what I've done is I have just I've just created a folder just for this session with some email to use as demonstrations. But the first thing that I do is to view my email by conversation. So what that means is instead of having, multiple email in my inbox, what I have is instead of having separate emails, Outlook groups them here together by usually the title of the email. So this is a complete thread. It even includes my sent items, and I can see it all here by expanding. Where you find that is under View. There's a box here that's Show as Conversations. And when you turn this on, you can turn it on just for one folder, so you can try it just with your inbox. You can try it, have it happen for all folders. And if you decide you don't like it, you can deselect it, turn it off, and it will ungroup them all. Some people don't like shows conversations because, especially in the beginning, as you're getting used to it, it is possible that you would click on this and possibly miss a message if you're not used to viewing your email in this way. But I like it, and one reason I like it is because when I'm done with this email and it's all grouped together, I could delete it or I can file it, and it just drags all 5 emails at once. So I don't have to worry about finding all 4 of those separate emails and then filing or deleting them. It just all happens with one action. The next thing is conversation cleanup. So conversation cleanup is a pretty cool tool in Outlook. And what it does is, I have a little diagram here. So I set up a kind of test one to show you this. I sent out an email to ask people what kind of pizza they wanted, my whole team that I work with. So then I got a reply all from Neil, and then from that reply, my coworker Ann, she replied all from that. And then separate from that, Jerry saw the email a little bit later, and he didn't see the one from Neil and Ann, so he has his own reply all. So what cleanup does is it looks in your email to see when you're responding, you know how that text falls below where you reply. So what it does is it goes through your email and it tries to match up the different email to see if it's already quoted in the text of the final email. And what it will do is it will delete all the redundant emails. So in this scenario, when I run cleanup, instead of having, 1, 2, 3 emails, I should only have 2 because this reply from Neil is quoted in the reply from Ann. So I'm going to show you how to run that, and we'll see what happens. So here's that one. I've got the reply from Ann, and actually I'm going to turn off Show as Conversations so that you can see. I've got here the reply from Neil, and then Ann replied back from what Neil had, and then the third one from Jerry. So under Home, we have this option here, Clean Up. I'm going to say clean up just this conversation, but notice there's also clean up the entire folder, clean up all folders and subfolders. So I'm just going to say clean up this conversation and clean up. And there, what it did, it just deleted the email from Neil because that is, again, quoted in the one from Anne. So, conversation cleanup is good if you're, not viewing as conversation because you've got, separate emails, but also maybe you're coming back from vacation. You don't want to read through every single email. So what you can do is you can clean up that entire thread and then you'll be reading less email. Here, just a few more things before we get into the actual processing, some things that I'm doing this year. One thing that I'm doing is I'm relying on uh, email rules to forward some of those emails that I don't want to read immediately when they arrive. So I'll show you how to set those up a little bit later, but email rules happen automatically. And basically, when the email hits your inbox, if it matches what you've said the criteria are, it does whatever you tell it to do. So it happens a lot of times, without you knowing. It's not a good idea to set up an email rule for things that are time sensitive, things that are from your supervisor, that type of thing. But it is a good idea if you get like automatic generated reports that you want to read in your free time. You don't need to read them as soon as they get to you, or newsletters, that type of thing. So that's a little bit of an email rule. Also, I've been using, I'm going to jump to search first. So I'm using search a lot more and search folders. So it used to be that search wasn't that great in Outlook, but now it's gotten a lot better. And let me just go here. So in the follow-up email, I'll send, Microsoft has a great page on different Outlook search terms, but there's a lot of things you can do just in the search to drill down to the information you want. So, if I search for Bobby Moore, I'm going to be looking for either of those words in the from, to, subject line, in the body of the email, that type of thing. If I want to get even more specific, I can do the from in quotes. In our system, it'd be more, comma, space, Bobby. If I know it has a specific term in the subject line, I can say subject and just include that term in quotes. There's a great has attachment option. And so let me show you this. So when you are searching, you come up here into the search menu. What's cool is that you get this contextual menu here that's just search tools. So if you don't remember those, like how to type in those commands to get that really specific, you can just come in here, click on the has attachment button, and it will drill down. Now a few notes here. By default, because I'm in the current folder, it's going to search only the current folder. So here, I have these terms here. Also, recent searches is pretty cool. So if you don't want to, if you know you just searched for something, instead of recreating that search, you can come here, see what you just searched for. But like I was saying, there's different scopes for your search. So here, by default, because I'm in the folder, it's only going to search in this folder. But if I wanted to, I could search just this mailbox or all mailboxes, and it would search. I have a team mailbox as well as my own. And then to clear the search, I just, click on the X, or I can say close search here, either one.
Okay, so one other thing that could come up is that, when you run your search, it'll only display the most recent results. So just to show you here at the bottom of the list, it just says showing recent results. You can always click more and see if that will work as well. So that's something there. So that's a little bit on search, clear the search. I'm just going to click there. The next thing is search folders. Here I have down here, there's an area called search folders, and there's some already set up by default. So an example is unread mail. That is actually a search folder. What a search folder is it's actually just a view of all the emails that match a certain search criteria. So it's unlike a folder, really, in that you're not moving any email anywhere. All of the email is wherever it resides. So in the inbox, or if it's been in a certain dragged to a certain folder, what we're able to do is create a view similar to a folder where you just click on, the name of the folder, the search folder, and it shows you those email. So to create a search folder, you just right click on search folder, say new for search folder. You can do a lot of different things with search folders. You can look for, unread mail, that's given, that's one that's already there. Mail flagged for follow-up. So if you're using flags with your with your mail to signify when you need to follow up with someone. You could create a folder there. I've done one here, a flagged for action. A really cool one, mail to and from specific people. So I have one of these set up for my supervisor, but you can, do that type of thing. Mail sent directly to me, that's a cool one. So, when you're just the only person in the to box, you can have that there. The cool thing too is with all these search folders, they're buried down here by default, but you can drag any of these items up here to the favorites, and then you can quickly find those there. So that's a little bit about search folders. Again, it doesn't move any email anywhere, but it saves you some time because you don't actually have to file anything. It's just pulling in the email. It's just showing you the email, not even pulling in, showing you the email that matches that criteria. Okay, so getting to the 4Ds, like I mentioned, the 4Ds are do it, defer it, delegate it, delete it. Do it, if it takes less than 3 minutes, go ahead and do it. The goal here is that you're processing your email. You want to get through all of your email so that you can tell, there might be something buried that's higher priority than you think. So if you do it, you'll take less than 3 minutes. You'll go ahead and take care of it. Keep working, processing your email. Defer it. If it takes more than 3 minutes and you are the person who actually needs to take the action, defer it to another time. So that's a key thing there. If it's actually for someone else, something for someone else to do, you do not need to work, it's someone else's task. But if it's your task, you can defer it to another time. I'll show you some tricks there. But, I always put it on my to-do list and then drag it to my actions folder, get it out of my inbox. Delegate it. If it's something that someone else can better accomplish, or even if it's a question that someone else knows the answer to, you can delegate it to that person. So go ahead, forward it to that person, ask them to respond. Better yet, you can reply all, tell the person who requested it from you, so-and-so is the best person to answer that. That way you're handing it off to them and they know that. And then finally, delete it. If it's a mail, if it's an email that you're not really ever going to go back and read, just delete it. And if it's an email that the same type of email, you delete it every time, after the second or third time, just unsubscribe, or you can block it if there's not an unsubscribe link, or if it's something suspicious, you can just block it. Or if you've read the information, you're not going to refer to it again, go ahead and delete it. It's freeing to do that. Or if the information is held someplace else and you can refer to it there. So I'm going to take you through these with a couple tips for each one. The first one is do it. If it takes less than 2 to 3 minutes, go ahead and do it. So the first tip here is to start with the end in mind. And this really comes down to attachments with emails. So if instead of opening the attachment, saving it to the desktop, then moving the file from the desktop to the actual folder on the shared drive or in your personal folder, just start with the end in mind. Go ahead and save those attachments where they're going to end up so you can save yourself some trouble. All right, so right here, in my email, I have this email with a bunch of attachments. I sent it to myself just to give you an example. But here, instead of right-clicking and saying Save As, or just dragging it to the desktop, or, opening it and saving it, instead of doing that, check this out. Try instead to do Save All Attachments. That way you can save them all at once. It's going to give you all the lists of the attachments you're saving. You click OK. Then actually go to the place where you want to save them. So for these, I'll go to our shared drive, and I'll come here and I'll go down into images. While I'm at it, maybe I need to create a new folder for this because it's a new thing. So I can just create the new folder right there, and I can say images for website or whatever it's called. And then once I create that folder, I can just double click. Now I'm inside the folder. I can click OK. Again, it's going to tell me all the attachments I've been saving. And now, I can delete this because I've already got those saved. So start with the end in mind, create a folder structure for your projects, and save those attachments directly there instead of creating a bunch of steps for yourself. The next one is to set up an email signature. So I'm guessing a lot of you have these set up already, but the thing with email signatures is, they show up at the end of your, usually your messages. And so the easiest way to get to an email signature is to click on New Email, go to signature, and then go to signatures. So by creating an email signature, not only are you giving people your contact information and all the information they need to know to maybe schedule a meeting with you or that type of thing, but you're also making it so that you are consistent in how you sign your emails and that everything's spelled correctly all the time, because you'll spell check, or you'll look at this, give it a good look over. So here, just so you're aware, you can add multiple email signatures. So sometimes people will have, like I have here, um, they'll have a large, a longer one for when they're creating new messages, and then they'll have a short one for when they're just sending replies, so they don't have the long email there. So just so you're aware, you can choose new there. You can create a new email signature, that type of thing. You can add links in your signatures. If you're a Skype for Business user, you can include an instant message link. So when someone clicks on your signature, it launches an instant message. I'll include those directions with the follow-up if you're interested in doing that.
So that's a signature. The next thing I have is a quick part. So what a quick part is if you find yourself having to go back maybe to a sent message to copy and paste the same blurb of text into multiple messages, what you might want to do is create a quick part. The cool thing about quick parts is they correspond with almost every, I think, Microsoft program. But here I'm going to open up this draft. So a common thing for us is we send the directions on how to get to the instruction lab. So instead of typing this in every time or going to find it in a sent message, what I can do is I can select the text, I can go to Insert, and then over here there's a Quick Parts area. So there I can say Quick Parts, and I can say Save Selection to Quick Part Gallery. Now here I'll title it probably like BIL directions, so I know which lab that is. There's different ways where you can organize these. You can also choose to, create its own paragraph. That's what I'm going to choose and click OK. So now I have that other message open. If I'm sending someone a message and they're meeting me in that training lab, instead of typing that or finding it, I just go to Quick Parts, say directions, and it's right there. So, it's really good for those blurbs that you're adding to, a lot of your messages. Again, some people will add, if you're adding it to every message, some people just add it to their signature. So there's another option there. The next thing, going one step further with that whole idea, is Outlook message templates. So if you're sending the same message over and over again, instead of saving it in your drafts and forwarding it out or making a copy or finding it in your sent items, forwarding it out, making a copy, that type of thing, make an Outlook message template. So with an Outlook message template, it's a file. When you start from the template, you never overwrite it. You always have the template, and you can basically send it on to whomever, and you can edit the text that's in the template. So I'll show you an example of one of those. They're really great for, and I learned this from someone over in Caruth. I hadn't even thought of this. They're good for group messages. So let's see. Here in our shared folder, Tennille and I have a folder called Course Communications. So hopefully every time, before a course and after a course, you'll receive an email from us. And those see you and follow-up messages, those are Outlook message templates. So we just come here before a course and we double click on it. And then it's just a new email now, and we fill in, the specifics about what time and place it is. We paste in the people who are registered to attend, and we just send. We also probably, I don't know, I send it from myself usually, but I can choose to send it from our department account and add my signature at the bottom. So it's really great because if we decide to update this message, then, if we want to change the template, we can actually just save it as a new template. So let me walk you through that really quickly. Instead of just hitting the save here, which will just save it as a draft in your own email, what you do is you go to File, Save As. Then here in the file type, you choose Outlook Template. So by default, it's not going to choose that. And when it does that, it takes you to this local area on your machine. But again, these are ones that Neil and I share. So I just go to our group folder, to the area, and I just save them as usually what we have a naming convention. So the name of the course, and then either CU or follow-up, meaning pre-course or post-course. So it's really great. It's part of our process of just setting up classes, and it saves us a lot of time. Here, I'm just not going to save the changes because that will just save it in my drafts. So I've already got it saved here in the in this folder. I think if I refresh. So there it is there. The next thing is categories and quick steps. I talked a little bit about this, initially, but let me show you how to set those up. So categories are pretty nice because unlike a folder with a category, you can tag emails with multiple categories. So I was having that problem last year when I had all those folders. I couldn't decide whether sometimes to drag something to the project folder or to the person folder or to the meeting folder. Now what I have going for me is I just have different categories. Some of them are set up to correspond to these large projects. Some of them correspond with um, my calendar, what I'm using for my calendar. And then I have quick steps set up, so that's just gives me a little shortcut in order to apply the category and file. So let me give you a view of that. Okay, so categories they correspond here in your email. They also correspond on your calendar. So on my calendar, I have things categorized. The big ones I have, if anything's training, I have a category for training and it shows up bright red on my calendar. So I know when I need to be prepared for something. But they also are over here, in your mail, you can do the same thing. So to view all your categories, you find it under Categorize, and you can say All Categories. By default, these come labeled like red, blue, green, yellow, and something. I rename them to be the things I actually need, and I actually need to clean these up. But a good example is this My Community is a big project I'm working on now, so a lot of times I'll tag things with that. So basically what I've done is I've created a quick step, which just is something that you program and it becomes a little button. Here there's different ones that are already ready to go. So categorize and move is one that I'm doing a lot. And so what I've done is I've created this My Community quick step, and what it will do is apply that cat. A lot of that stuff is referenced right now. So here, this is an embed code for something from My Community. I'm just going to hit that quick step, and what it will do, it just disappears from there, but now it's in my reference folder and it's got that category applied to it. The other cool thing about categories is here, when you go to search, you can just search by category, and it's got that drop down there, so you can find that type of thing. So I can search for has attachment and that project. So I'm going to just keep going, moving ahead with the other 3Ds, and then we'll pause for questions, I guess, at the end. So the next thing is defer it. So this is if the thing takes more than 2 to 3 minutes that's in your inbox and you're the best person to do it, you're going to want to defer it to another time so that you can keep processing your email. The big thing here is maintain a task list so you don't lose track of any of those things. Also, I will usually drag it to my action items folder, which I review every week as well. If it's a large project, you are going to want to schedule time to work on projects, and there's a really great tip here. It's really nice. In Outlook, you can take any email and drag it onto your calendar to create an appointment for yourself. So I'm trying to think of one, maybe like this pizza one. I can just drag that onto my calendar. What happens is it creates an appointment and it includes the text of that email here in the appointment. So here I'll usually just say like at my desk, which is the whole at desk, at work thing. That's a whole thing in getting things done. I don't use that as much, but then what's nice about it is I can say, okay, this is going to take me 30 minutes to do maybe. I have to guess how long it'll take me to do, and I can go to my scheduling assistant and I can actually see when do I have time to do this. So, maybe it's something that's going to have to wait till tomorrow morning. The really great thing about this as well, especially if you can accurately, gauge how much time it's going to take you, is that when you get a new thing from your supervisor or from a project team, you can say, I'm looking at my schedule. I can do that, but it's not gonna be until Friday that I can actually look at that, or something's gonna have to change with my priorities. So if you do start and get in the habit of actually scheduling your time out, it can be really great as far as, managing those priorities and communicating what they are. Um, The next thing here, create an actions folder, flag emails for action. Those are two things. So, create an actions folder. That's what I have. So in that example here with pizza, let's say I had to do something with that. I just scheduled the time on my calendar. Now I would just drag that email to action. And usually I would, I'd have this showing as conversation for this folder. So it would drag all of the pizza to action. And I'd get rid of that. So then, I get the reminder because I set something up on my calendar. Also, I would never, miss it because every week I look in the actions folder. The other thing is flagging emails for follow-up. So I use a very like list-oriented way of managing my tasks. There's a lot of people who use Outlook tasks, and it can be great. I can definitely see the benefit of doing it. I'm just not there yet. But basically, what you can do here is you can flag emails if you want to say, I need to follow up on this. I can't do it right now. This is basically like an action thing. So you can just click on the flag. What that does is it creates a task in your task list. So here, I now have a task. The other thing you can do is with the search folder, you can create something that has, just pulls in a view of all the flagged items. And with that, I have this for follow-up, and that will pull in any of those emails that I flagged that I still need to follow up on. So if I were doing this, I'd probably do this instead of the action, and I would flag it as opposed to moving it into the action folder. A tip here, so that I can always see this for follow-up, I can right-click on it and say Show in Favorites. And this area up here is really customizable, so any folder you have down here in this view, you can add up here and you can reorder. So for follow-up is now my example of my actions folder, and I see that there. The flagging thing, another thing to mention about that, it could be like that's probably something I should work towards to in next year because it can be a really good mobile strategy. If you're someone that's in a lot of meetings and you want to process that email, in between meetings or while you're at the meeting, when you swipe left on most phones, you get the delete option, but you also get the flag option. So that would all correspond with Outlook as well. So it can be a really great way to signal to yourself that you need to follow back up on that email that you received and get it out of your inbox. So next one, delegate it. So pass it on to the right person for the job. If you have employees, it could be someone that works for you, but it also could be someone who just knows the answer. So, relieving yourself from uh, having to be the intermediary person and just letting, the person who knows respond. For that, you're just going to want to keep track of the things that you delegated. I put them in a waiting on folder that I review every week. Some of them I also have a little area on my OneNote list each week of things that I've delegated. Like Tennille's already taken care of that one. I saw it, so it's already taken care of. Using those Outlook quick steps to categorize and file could be a trick there. And yeah, just keeping track of delegated tasks and agenda items in your notebook or your task list. The last one here, delete it. So be honest with yourself. If you delete an email, delete it if you're not going to read it. If you delete it twice without reading it, unsubscribe. If you don't see an unsubscribe link, you can block the email. Um, and then, for those ones you do want to read, setting up a list is a really great idea. So let me show you a little bit of that. See here. And then this will be the last thing, and then we're going to pause for questions and sharing, hopefully. So uh, here, here I get these, somehow I got added to this list, so I get these every day. In the new Outlook, there's actually an unsubscribe area here that will look for that link if they can tell that it's there. This one I already checked. It couldn't tell that I was there, but at the end of your the email, there should be an opt-out, unsubscribe, or email preferences link. And if you trust the email, that's another thing. I know who this is, how they got my email address. So here I'd probably just opt out and follow that link. But if you didn't trust them and you wanted to stop receiving these, here you can find it here. You can find it by right-clicking, and you can say junk block sender. So that's another way just to make sure that you'd never receive those. And this new Outlook that we have here, I can choose block sender from there because again, it's not recognizing that opt-out link. Then the other thing is if this is something that I want to receive and I want to read, I can set up a rule. The easiest way to do that is to find one of those emails and to right-click on the email and go to Rules, Create Rule. Here you'll get this simplified dialog, but there's a lot of advanced options you can set up. So here you're going to want to specify the minimum amount of conditions that it should meet and then what it should do. So for this one, from EAB Daily Briefing, that'll catch everything. And then what I want it to do, move the item to the folder. I can select the folder. I put all these under my personal one, and I actually have one created here. If I didn't, I could just click New from here, and I could create a new example folder and put it there. And then I'll say OK. The last thing I can do is it'll ask me if I want to run this rule now. That's a good one because then I get rid of all those email. So those disappear, and then in my example folder, it should just be right there. So email rules, I gotta be honest, they cause people the most confusion. So if it sounds like a good idea, sign up for that Getting Organized class. Think of those email that you want to set up the rules for. And also, I challenge you to unsubscribe from an email newsletter that you're currently getting that you know you're never gonna read. So just go right now, find that email, unsubscribe, do yourself a favor. Um, so those are the 4Ds. Again, I'm going to send all this stuff out. We covered them pretty quickly. I'm going to pause now. I'd like to hear from you about questions you have. I'd like to hear things that are working from you. Feel free to ask, in the chat window, or if you'd like to talk, that's more than welcome too. You can unmute yourself and talk to the group. Ooh, the sent items folder. That's a good one. Who asked that? Sherry. Sherry knows. Sent items is a good one because if you receive those, your email is almost out of space. The sent items is the hidden culprit. So you'll often have a lot of attachments, a lot of things there. Um, I guess the thing there with your sent items, one thing that you can quickly do to clean up is I'm going to do it here in this folder just because I'm afraid of what will be in there. But in any of these views here, you're viewing usually the default is by date. But here you can do by size. And there'll be a category. So here's medium, small, tiny. There'll be a category at the top for large and then for very large. If you can, archive the stuff that's in there, save it off to someplace else, and then delete those email. And that will free up a lot of space, especially in your sent items. So that's a great question. And then once you're done here, you can just go back to date, which is the default usually. Cool. So there's a lot of things you can do within the view of your email, and that's, a lot of people who are like productivity gurus, they turn off this whole preview pane. You find all those options under view. So here, reading pane, some people suggest to turn that off so that you don't even get distracted about what's in the email. But the other thing here, what that question is the message preview. So you have the option of doing, off. I'm just going to say this folder. So there's just subjects, one line, and then what I had was the max 3 lines. So you can go in here, you can change things just for certain folders, so you could do it just for your inbox or just for, this folder. If you ever change things here and you hate it, you don't like it, you can reset the view and go back to the defaults, so to Outlook default. So if you want to experiment around, you can do that. You can always go back to reset. That's a good question. So you have a category for like for me and Tennille would be like Suzie, and then it would be like Tennille. Um, and then so you're not seeing the category appear like a little square here, or when you search, you're not seeing them. There could be a couple things going on there. One, it could be that people aren't applying the categories. So here, if there could be that could be it. The other thing is, and I'm not the expert on this, but Tennille, remember when we had our group account set and I could only see emails that I had sent and you could only see emails that you had sent? There is the off chance that it could be something with how your group account is set up. So, it'd be an interesting thing we could always Skype and take a look and involve your TSC staff to check as well, just to make sure we knew. But group accounts can get a little bit tricky. Um, so there's a whole, I have to say, I probably don't know the best way to do group accounts, but what we have, interesting enough, we have this training account. One thing that's nice is I've added the training account to my favorites here. So, before I was having to scroll down to see if there's anything there. Now I can see it right here. The other thing that's kind of cool is those quick steps are they are set up specifically for the account. So here in these different, I don't know, in this box or in this email box, I can say what we do is we do completed, and it just we have a quick step here just that puts it in the completed items folder. But you could have a quick step that tags it as you and puts it in completed, even better. Well, we got some great questions. Again, we recorded this. Another thing to mention is if you like this presentation and you want to bring it to your staff, we definitely can do that. We've done it for a few different groups. So please, yeah, follow up with us. Let us know if you liked it, and if you want to schedule it for in your next department meeting or something like that. Just a reminder, those upcoming quick learn sessions, I'll include this in the follow-up, but next week is a great one if you want to continue on with this personal organization path, OneNote. That'll be a great way to get on the right track with that. And then we're going to be looking at Office 365 and OneDrive in my community, which seems like things everyone's kind of curious about, so that'll be great as well. Yeah, so we will, yeah, I'll send out the recording as part of the follow-up message, and then it will be posted on our website. We have a quick learns page that has the other two quick learns that we've done so far. So yeah, hopefully you'll always be able to review. All right, with that, thank you so much for your time, and I hope you have a good lunch. And feel free to disconnect. I'm going to hang out here for a while just in case there's any last questions. Um, I probably won't set up a separate invitation, but I will include it in the follow-up to this session. Okay, thanks so much for your questions, everybody. Yeah, Tennille and I will hang out here for a few more minutes in case there's any extras, but that's the end of today's session. So thanks for joining us, and feel free, if you want to close the session, you can just close that window to leave.